Cascadia was born of fire and ice. A string of 19 volcanic peaks stretch from Canada to California. Sulfur, lava, ocean mist, evergreens, and fog commingle to create one of the world's most haunting, mysterious realms. Venture with me into the Cascade Mountain range. Find all Cascadia episodes on your regular Curious Cat stream. My father, Mike, completed his student teaching in the shadows of Mount Adams in Packwood, Washington. It's one of those things I look back with regret, wishing I'd thought to ask him before he passed if he'd ever seen something strange in the skies above that area of Western Washington. God knows enough people have. The rumors that swirl around Mount Adams are only rivaled by those of her southern sister, Mount Shasta. Top off that hydroflask, double knot your boots, and let's get into it. Let's start with a little Mount Adams 101. Mount Adams is one of the long-lived volcanoes in the Cascade Range, with minor activity beginning almost 1 million years ago and major cone-building activity beginning 520,000 years ago. The whole mountain has been completely eroded by glaciers to an elevation of 8,200 feet twice during its lifetime. That's gotta be my favorite fun fact so far about this mountain that I found. It's been completely eroded by glaciers to an elevation of 8,200 feet twice during its lifetimes. Oh my God, it'd be one hell of a peak if those glaciers hadn't cut it down to size 2 times. More fun facts about Mount Adams. Mount Adams, a towering stratovolcano, is the second highest peak in the Pacific Northwest, in Washington and Oregon, after Mount Rainier. The Mount Adams stratovolcano is surrounded by volcanic fields that contain several hundred smaller volcanoes. Mount Adams is a potentially active volcano located 50 kilometers east of Mount St. Helens in Washington state. Although it has not had a major eruption in 1,400 years, it is not considered extinct. Thermal anomalies and gas emissions at the summit indicate that Mount Adams is still active. About 600 climbers each year attempt to make it to the summit, according to the U.S. Forest Service, many making their goal. We hope to join those ranks. The top of Mount Adams' infamous fall summit, known as Piker's Peak, which blocks the real summit from view. It's tough. You gain about 2,000 feet in elevation. Okay, let's dig into the ancient history of Mount Adams, and I'd like to begin with the oral histories, the legends and lore of local tribes who call the mountain Klickitat and Pato. I found this from gatheringstories.org. It's a story about Mount Adams, and I have the links in the show notes, so take a peek. Mount Adams, 12,307 feet in altitude, the second highest peak in Washington, stands in the southwestern part of the state. The Klickitat and Yakima Indians call it Pato. They claim it as their mountain. This legend was told by Chief Job Charlie with his granddaughter Hattie Wesley acting as interpreter. Now 86 years old, Job Charlie heard the story when he was a little boy. When he got his first horse, he rode to Mount Adams and climbed it. Until he saw the eagles up there, he had not believed the story. Many eagles are hatched in the caves on the east side of Mount Adams. Back when the mountains were people, Sun was man. He had 5 mountains for his wives. One was Plash Plash, where the goat rocks are now. Plash Plash means white spots. Another was Waukesha, west of Sadas Pass, and others were Mount Adams, Mount Rainier, and Mount St. Helens. The Indians called all of them Pato, which means standing high. Waukesha and Plash Plash were once known as Patos also. I will call only Mount Adams Pato in this story, for Rainier and St. Helens are not important in it. Sun traveled from east to west, of course, so Waukesha was the first wife he talked to every morning. Plash Plash was the second, and Pato was the third. Pato became jealous of the other two and made up her mind to get rid of them. Jealous and angry, she fought them and broke down their high heads. All that is left of Plash Plash is goat rocks. All that is left of Waukesha is the mountain called Simcoe Mountain and the little huckleberry bushes on it. Rainier and St. Helens were so far away that Pato left them alone. For a while after she had broken the heads of Waukesha and Plash Plash, Pato was happy. Every morning she was the first wife Sun spoke to. She was the tallest mountain around, and she was proud and strong. But she did not remain satisfied. She made her mind to go across the river and take what she wanted from the mountains south of her. So she went down there and brought back all their grizzly bears, black bears, elk, deer, pine nuts, huckleberries, roots, and herbs. From the rivers and creeks, she took the salmon and trout and put them in the streams that flowed down her sides. She planted the berries and the pine nuts and the roots all around her. She turned loose the elk, deer, and bears, and that is why there are plenty on Mount Adams today. All this time the Great was watching. He saw the wrong things Pato was doing. He thought to himself, there must be a law that any wrongdoing shall be punished. But punishment did not come yet. Pato was so strong and tall that the other mountains said, we'll not do anything about what she has done. We'll just let it go. But Claw-Claw-Nee, you call them the 3 sisters, said among themselves, Pato is too proud and greedy. We must do something. They came up north and said to White East, Mount Hood, why don't you destroy Pato? Why do you let her get the best of you? You are tall and strong. Someday there will be people on the earth. When they find that we have let Pato destroy us and steal from us, they will make fun of us. That is how Claw-Claw-Nee caused White East to fight Pato. If I get the best of her, White East promised them, I'll take all that she has stolen from us. But first, White East said to Pato, in a really nice way, I want you to give back half of what you took from us. When the new people come, those who live in our part of the country should have the same food that people near you will have. I'm asking you now in a nice way for only half of what you took from us. If you give it to me, the new people will have food. The Pato was greedy. No, I shall never give anything to you, she said. So they fought. Up to that time, Pato had a high head. White East hit her from the east side and knocked her head off. Today on the north side of Pato, there's a pile of fine rocks about a half-mile long. These rocks were once Pato's head. The White East thought, I'll leave here and there a little bit of everything she took away. Elk, deer, berries. I'll put some here, some there. Pato can't have everything. So White East shared with the other mountains. The Great Spirit saw all that happened. He did not try to help Pato. She deserved that punishment, he thought. She deserved to lose her head because she destroyed the heads of Waukesha and Plash Plash. That will be the law. If people do wrong, they will be punished in the same way. But after Pato lost her head, she became mean. Whenever she became angry, she would send a big thunderstorm and much rain. In the winter, she would send big snow, and in the spring there would be floods. All through the Yakima Valley, there were lakes from the big floods. When the first people came to the earth, they lived only on the mountains. The Great Spirit was watching. He saw all this happen. At last he said, I shall make a new head for Pato. Then she will not be so mean. So he sent down a big white eagle with his son, a red eagle, riding on his right shoulder. He put the two eagles on top of Pato to be her head. Then he said to her, I am sending White Eagle and his son to you to be your head. Don't have hard feelings toward the other mountains, and don't flood the earth again. Remember that you are the daughter of the Great Spirit. Pato answered, I am glad you have given me the eagles. I will forgive the other mountains, and I will not flood the country anymore. Then she raised her right hand and said, I did not know that the Great Spirit is my father. I am sorry for all wrong things I have done. Then the Great Spirit replied, I gave the world to you, mountains. I put you here and there where I wanted you to be. Some of you I made high, some I made low. You should have never destroyed Waukesha and Plosh Plosh. I love that story. And doesn't it bring to mind some of the flood myths from around the world? Even that feeling of, I'm sorry, that apology. Mount Adams has its own Reddit thread. Now, it's a short Reddit thread, but I'm still pretty happy it has that. Mount Adams is overshadowed by combustible Mount St. Helens and majestic Mount Rainier, who seem to get all the attention in Southwest Washington. But Mount Adams can boast about having its own Reddit thread. It's called the Underappreciated Mount Adams, which makes me giggle. On the thread, one commenter says, fun fact, there are caves along the base, including one called Cheese Cave, where a Roquefort-style blue cheese was produced in the 50s. Someone needs to revive that tradition. And I hate to partially rain on their parade. The information is somewhat inaccurate. Here's the real scoop on that cheese cave. The cheese cave is located in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, not too far from the Guller Ice Cave. This cave is comprised of a 2,060-foot-long lava tube, and interestingly, was once used for refrigeration by the Guller Cheese Company. You can even see some of the old wooden shelves inside that were used for storage. To reach the cave, you need to climb down a ladder. While another Reddit user, identifying as Carlu, writes, I worked for the Forest Service down there for a summer, and boy, do I miss waking up to a view of the mountain every summer. At some point, the Forest Service mapped all the caves in the local area, and I came across all the maps buried deep in an abandoned office, and I spent the rest of the summer finding as many of those caves as I could. There are well over 100, end quote. We need to talk about the UFO floating over Mount Adams. There have been rumors since 2020 that a glacier melted and created an opening used regularly by UFOs or UAPs to enter and exit the mountain, a UFO hangar of sorts. There's a video on this posted to YouTube, and I've added the links to it in the show notes to take a look. From ECETI's website, quote, Kenneth Arnold, who coined the word flying saucers in his 1947 report, said he lost sight of the luminous discs as they descended on the western slopes of Mount Adams. In the realm of UFOs and UAPs, Mount Rainier and Mount Adams are inextricably linked. I found this account from Weird Washington that tells the tale. The Coming of the Saucers, Mount Rainier. In late November 1896, a couple called Mr. and Mrs. St. John told the Tacoma Daily Ledger about a strange nighttime sighting. They told the reporter they were lying in bed around midnight, looking out the window. Mrs. St. John saw a strange light in the sky east of Mount Rainier. She woke her husband, and he saw it too. They said it was as bright as a lighthouse beacon. It flashed several times, and each time it flashed, various colored lights shot out from the center of the object, like spokes from the center of a wheel. They saw the strange light move from the mountain, traveling southeast for several minutes. The couple did not change their position. They just watched it move, first from a window on the north side of their house, switching their view to a southern window. Based on the angle, this meant that the strange object moved a considerable distance. Did this strange object reappear over 50 years later? Because it was seen again in 1947, and this sighting led to the popular use of the term flying saucer. The phrase owes its existence to a newspaper man's misquote of a pilot named Kenneth Arnold regarding a strange experience he had had on June 24, 1947, one very similar to the St. John's experience in 1896. Kenneth Arnold lived in Boise, Idaho, where he owned a business that made and installed fire control systems. Business must have been slow in the summer of 1947 because Arnold spent June 24th in his plane flying over the Washington Cascades. He was looking for a missing Marine airplane, hoping for a $10,000 reward. At 2:50 p.m., he was flying east over the mountain toward Mount Adams when he saw 9 large metallic objects flying with plasma-type middles in them. These flying objects were about 25 miles away at an elevation of 10,000 feet, traveling very fast. He noticed that they did not fly like ordinary aircraft in straight lines or make wide turns. Instead, they dipped and swerved, seeming to follow the mountain peaks from Mount Rainier to Mount Adams. Arnold started the stopwatch on his airplane control panel. Based on the distance between the two mountains, which was 45 miles, and the time it took them to travel, he estimated they were traveling at 1,200 miles an hour. At first, Arnold thought they were jet aircraft, even though their speed was far faster than that of any early jets in 1947. Once the strange aircraft vanished in the distance, Arnold continued his search until he landed in Yakima, Washington. He reported the incident to the Civil Aeronautics Administration, and the next day flew to Pendleton, Oregon, where the press mobbed him. He gave several newspaper and radio interviews describing the encounter. Before Arnold's sighting, there had been earlier reports of similar objects, see Maury Island, and the press and the U.S. government always referred to these objects as flying discs, as did Arnold. He told the reporters that the 9 craft were about 100 feet across, thin and disc or crescent shaped. I think of a croissant is actually the shape of them. Although the front of the craft was round, the rear looked chopped off and came to a point. He said that he was amazed that there was no tail, as on a normal aircraft, and that the craft did not make any noise. When one of the reporters asked him how the craft maneuvered, Arnold replied that they moved kind of like a saucer would move if someone skipped it across a lake. The reporter wrote down that Arnold said the aircraft looked like flying saucers, and the misquote stuck. Although this was not the first unidentified flying object ever reported, the publicity set off a rash of reports. After a radio interview, a number of people from Seattle and the Midwest contacted the media and reported seeing multiple flying objects on the same day. On July 4th, a United Airlines flight crew reported seeing flying objects over Idaho. A few days after that, on July 8th, another flying saucer was reported to have crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. Newspapers contacted military officials who denied that they were testing experimental jet aircraft in the Washington Cascades. The military, in turn, interviewed Kenneth Arnold as part of their own investigation. Their questions centered on other natural phenomenon that could have been responsible for the objects. Someone suggested water drops on the airplane window. Arnold replied that he had wondered the same, but that when he rolled down his window, the objects were still there. Oh, debunked. Others suggested that he got the time wrong or the distance, which would have given him the wrong speed. Skeptics believe that Arnold could have been fooled by mirages created by air inversions or even reflections of his own airplane off the atmosphere. Later, someone suggested that he'd seen a swarm of meteors that flashed and burned out quickly. Despite these suggestions, the Air Force could not prove Arnold was mistaken. This investigation led them to form special investigation teams that eventually turned into Project Blue Book, a formalized government investigation of UFOs undertaken from 1952 to 1970. Eventually, though, Kenneth Arnold came to the attention of publisher Ray Palmer. Palmer published a variety of magazines on science and science fiction. He interviewed Arnold and published an article titled The Truth About Flying Saucers. In the first edition of Fate magazine, Palmer also paid Arnold $200 to investigate the Maury Island incident, which became another article in Fate. In 1952, Arnold and Palmer published a book about Arnold's experiences titled The Coming of the Saucers. The issue of whether UFOs are really flying craft from outer space is full of controversy, and much of this controversy, and even its central term, has its beginnings in our home state. It is interesting to note that although skeptics do not believe that Kenneth Arnold saw flying machines from other worlds, none of them accuse him of deliberate fraud. Arnold's honesty and openness led the way to open discussions about the phenomenon. Thank you, Weird Washington. So you understand why now, after Kenneth Arnold's sightings that goes back to a prior sighting, those mountains, Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, are tied together in alien lore infamy forever. There's a group of people that some have even characterized as a cult, which I don't believe they are, but they're out there remote viewing to save the world, and their group is called ECETI, and their setting is at the foot of Mount Adams. I found a great article about them on Thrillist, and I've put the links in the show notes for you. So in Thrillist article titled My Night Hunting UFOs at an Alien Ranch, written by Andrea Kasbrak, she writes, "So I saw this place on a late night documentary and I've always wanted to go. My friend Ash pinged me one day. I clicked through to the homepage for ECETI, short for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Located on a ranch in the small town of Trout Lake, Washington, ECETI professes a mighty mission, quote, to help people with public awareness of the ET reality and to assist people with connecting to positive otherworldly beings, end quote. This looks like a Christopher Pike novel, I typed back. I'm in. After a 5-hour drive south from Seattle, we arrived at a ranch. Its entrance was marked by ECETI's official logo, a winged golden heart with a lion's face. Continuing down the long wooded road, our cell phone signals cut out. White flags of peace flapped from the pine trees. Lenticular clouds loomed over the majestic white-capped Mount Adams in the distance. I felt like I had fallen off the map of reality and into the pages of some YA fantasy fiction. ECETI founder James Gilliland has been hosting people at his ranch since 1986. Seekers from all over the world come to stargaze, explore alternative healing techniques, and speculate about the possibility that we're not alone in the universe. The biggest draw is the Skywatch weekends, which Gilliland hosts May through September. The hope is that for a $15 donation, you will see some UFOs. Arriving with zero expectations, Ash and I parked in the dirt lot and went inside the main lodge to pay for a night stay. While you don't have to stay overnight to attend a Skywatch, we opted for the full experience. Visitors can camp out on the property for a suggested donation of $10 a night, or shack up in a guest room, yurt, or private cabin for a price of $75 to $125. Accommodations can best be described as celestial summer camp. Bunk beds, few frills, many dream catchers. Paying cash, this is not a credit card kind of place. Ash gently nudged me and pointed to the man standing behind us. That's James. With his tie-dyed shirt and scrappy ponytail, James Gilliland looked more like a deadhead than the self-appointed wingman for interdimensional beings. Gilliland claims he saw visions of Mount Adams after several near-death experiences body surfing. He was drawn to the lore of this region, which goes back centuries. One Native American legend told of a secret doorway in the mountain from which otherworldly beings with healing powers would emerge. And it was near Mount Adams that in 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold made the first UFO sighting recorded in modern history. There's 5 different species of aliens that live in the base of the mountain, Gilliland told us, as nonchalantly as someone placing their morning coffee order. We smiled, nodded, and scurried off to explore the property. Like Pee-wee's Playhouse for the paranormal, there are wildflowers as far as the eye can see, a handful of yaks wandering around, and a mysterious orange watchtower. I later learned this is where Gilliland records his weekly radio show, As You Wish, which speculates about galactic mysteries and the existence of Bigfoot with various free-thinking guests. At sunset, we gathered for the skywatch in the Field of Dreams. Predictably, the eavesdropping here was next level. One man discussed the supernatural powers of his ex-girlfriend. She knew when I was cheating because she would astral travel in her sleep and spy on me. People took turns sharing bizarre stories. Someone had watched souls slip out of corpses in Egypt. Another recalled a UFO encounter in the woods, even more uncanny than the possibility that we'd soon make alien contact was a sense of total freedom and uninhibited expression at ECETI. Like being 5 years old again. You could say literally anything and no one would bat an eye. All perspectives and experiences of reality, no matter how odd or eccentric, were accepted. After dark, James Gilliland emerged to lead the skywatch, strapping on a pair of night vision goggles and instructing us to look up. With a laser pointer, he directed our attention to small balls of light traveling across the night sky, occasionally flashing and pulsating. They look like illuminated amoebas wobbling across the blackness. See that? Gilliland asked, revving up the group. It just flashed. Man, this one's dimming out. Oh, whoa, there you go. Did you see that? It flashed us. I think it's going to power up. Nothing drew more excitement from skywatchers than the possibility of a power-up. The ECETI website identifies these hovering lights as metallic craft, ships, and large luminous objects. During a power-up, they are throwing off tremendous energies, expanding to several times their original size and responding to the people below to demonstrate they are under definite intelligent control. We have to focus really hard, one skywatcher chimed in. It's getting brighter, someone observed. Come on, Gilliland urged, flashing his laser light pointer around on the light. Power up, it's getting brighter. There it goes. There's the power up. The ball of light appeared to momentarily enlarge and flash, kind of like when Mario eats a super mushroom in Super Mario Brothers. The group cheered with the genuine enthusiasm of parents at a Little League baseball game. Gilliland turned to me. Want to try out the night vision goggles? I nodded. I slipped the goggles over my head, wandering about the darkness. The whole sky was lit up with stars that appeared to glow a slimy green with the night vision goggles. Bright lights above me pulsated, then enlarged. I watched them whiz past at various speeds, performing some sort of celestial symphony. I can't say with any certainty that these lights were actually aliens out for an evening joyride, but I've done my fair share of stargazing, and the sky activity at ECETI was unlike anything I'd ever witnessed. And it's worth noting that I was sober as a judge. There's a no drug or drinking policy at the ranch. As if our experience at E-City wasn't trippy enough, on our drive home the next morning, Ash and I saw a random alpaca standing alone by the side of the road, and shortly thereafter, a rainbow. It hadn't rained in days, but we knew better than to overthink it. Sometimes it's best to simply sit back and go with it. So if looking into the heavens and the side of the mountain for UFOs isn't your jam, and neither is using your third eye powers to see what's hovering above the mountain in the sky, then how about some down-to-earth, boots-to-trail fun? I found this list of 7 adventures on and around Mount Adams from pinesandvines.com. The first is the Sleeping Beauty Trail. It's about a 3-mile out and back trail, and it's difficult, but there's no pass required. It's dog friendly, but bring your dog on a leash. To get there, you reach the trailhead by navigating some unpaved Forest Service roads. It's bumpy, but it's doable. From Washington 141, turn right onto Trout Lake Creek Road, which becomes Forest Road 88, and then you'll go 4 miles and another 6 miles. The short but strenuous Sleeping Beauty Trail leads to an unforgettable viewpoint where Cascade peaks surround you in all directions. Although not much longer than a mile from the trailhead to the summit, this hike is not easy. It is consistently uphill, with its terrain alternating only between steep and very steep. The game, however, is worth the candle and all the... I've never heard that saying before. The game, however, is worth the candle. And all the while will be forgiven once you reach the top. For most of the hike, you will be in the forest with good shade along the trail from the Douglas fir canopy. You might spot a few wildflowers in summer, like Queen's Cup and yarrow. Look for the oddly shaped leaves of vanilla leaf that look a bit like platypus feet in the undergrowth. After the uphill march through the forest, you'll reach the first, although not the best view of Mount Adams. For a second, it'll look like you're in a harrowing scramble to the top, but then switchbacks appear with impressive stone retaining walls. After the switchbacks, you'll reach the rocky clearing at the top of Sleeping Beauty and panoramic views of the Cascades for almost 5,000 feet of elevation. Only 11 miles away, Mount Adams looks gigantic from Sleeping Beauty's summit. The second adventure is Langfeld Falls. After the tiring hike up Sleeping Beauty, nearby Langfeld Falls is a great place to recharge. A short dirt trail leads from the small parking lot down to the falls and Mosquito Creek flowing from its base. I think without saying anything more than Mosquito Creek, you'll probably need some pest spray, right? About halfway down the trail, you'll reach a memorial to District Ranger Casey Langfeld and a viewpoint for the falls. This viewpoint can be a good turnaround point if you'd like to avoid the scramble to the creek at the bottom of the trail. It's not hard or dangerous, just a steep ascent. The third one is Convoy Lake National Wildlife Refuge. It's a 3.5 miles out and back trail. And the hike goes through Convoy Lake National Wildlife Refuge, and it leads to excellent views of Mount Adams without tons of elevation gain or sketchy Forest Service roads. It's a great one to try out if you're looking to admire the mountain without needing to walk up a mountain. The trail makes a leisurely loop starting from the prairie around the seasonal Convoy Lake, then enters a forest that feels more like the high desert than the Cascades. From the parking lot, you'll see a restored log house that was once the home of the Cole family in the late 1800s and early 1900s. A short spur trail will bring you to the house and the old farm equipment surrounding it. Look for a sign here with details about the log home's history. Past the log house, you'll walk through a grassland that is a favorite of songbirds. This trail is a great place to see wildlife like elk, sandhill cranes, and the rare Oregon-spotted frog. In spring, snowmelt from Mount Adams creates Convoy Lake here, which dries up by midsummer. In its place, you'll see wildflowers in the prairie grasses like western spirea, yarrow, and St. John's wort. After walking through the prairie, you'll enter a forest dominated by ponderosas. A little over a mile into the hike, you'll reach the viewing platform for Mount Adams. From here, you can take a shortcut trail to return. The fourth adventure is Trout Lake. Oh my gosh, Trout Lake. You can get there with all the big signs. You'll have all sorts of different paths, and there's a lot of small lakes that surround Mount Adams. Trout Lake is one of the easiest to reach, especially if you're coming from Portland. Long and thin, it looks a lot like a broad, shallow river. Trout Lake formed around 6,000 years ago when a volcanic debris flow from Mount Adams created a natural dam that trapped water along the Trout Lake Creek, allowing the lake to fill. Sediment has been accumulating in the lake over time, turning it into a shallow wetland. Thanks to these deposits, the waters of the lake are calm and good for wading. On a hot day, expect to see plenty of inner tubes floating on the water. The highlight of Trout Lake is seeing the reflection of the mountain off its blue waters. There's other secluded mountain lakes that they mention as well on their list, including Mosquito Lake, which again, oh my God, it's like an advertisement for off. There's the BZ Falls that they mention. There's an elevation gain of only 100 feet. It's 0.6 miles out and back. Come on. It's dog friendly. You can do this one. I know you can. A short trail along the White Salmon River leads to picturesque 12-foot BZ Falls, a tucked-away gem that is an easy stop between the Columbia Gorge and the Mount Adams Wilderness. The trail begins at BZ Corner Launch Site, which is mostly used as a boat launch for river rafting. You'll start on the trail for a boat launch with metal railings on each side. This trail leads down to the water where you could admire the unexpected pearly blue color of the White Salmon River. To reach the falls, look for a gap in the metal railings and the start of an unpaved trail heading north. It will be on your left if you're heading down the hill from the trailhead. From here, the trail follows the river through a dense forest for about 0.3 miles. The trail feels a bit haphazard, having both well-constructed boardwalk sections and overgrown muddy quagmires with a board of two thrown across. The trail ends with a view of the falls as it plunges through a basalt canyon along the White Salmon River. Speaking of an adventure, White Salmon River, they recommend doing a rafting tour on that river. And there's plenty of other things to explore nearby, including the Columbia Gorge. So I hope you try one of those. Did you know, when I was doing the research for this episode, I was going deep, fam. Deep. And Mount Adams has its own B film, an independent movie that has questionable graphics, actors, and plot lines. I feel like my dad and I would have eaten this entire 120 minutes up. Here's what you need to know, and I put down in the show notes the links so you can watch it. Here's one review. Quote, if you're looking for an in-depth understanding at how a UFO investigator solves the mystery of an alien presence in the land that is home to storied legends like Bigfoot and Sasquatch, Mount Adams is not that film, but it is a film that does exactly what the producers said it does. It depicts the fight for survival of a team of UFO investigators as they are attacked by the very creatures they're trying to understand, end quote. Sasquatch. They had Sasquatches in their description and I just had to correct it. And I'm like, isn't the multiple of Sasquatch Sasquatchi? I don't know. Anyway, the review goes on to say the problem with the film is basically everything, but it's not the everything that you and I would assume. Take a listen. It's a problem because the special effects and depiction of the prehistoric creatures and alien UFOs that are making Mount Adams their home are impressive, especially for an indie film. They are so interesting, in fact, that I found myself wanting to know everything from the background of why they were there, how did they get there, can they be communicated with, investigative questions. Unfortunately, what we got was a wilderness survival story that leaves more questions than answers. Obviously, a lot of effort went into making this project. This was certainly not a shaky handheld production. Anyone familiar with the wilderness area should get a kick out of seeing how the film uses the mountain and the high aerial shots of the roads highlight the dramatic scenery. Had more dialogue been devoted to the scientific research questions and discussion about the alien presence in the mountain, I think Mount Adams would have been a more cohesive film. Most comforting movie fact, though, no extraterrestrial creatures were harmed in the making of this film. I mean, this sounds so good. If you're curious, I found links to the Mount Adams movie from IMDb and added them to the show notes. You can rent the flick for $3 on Amazon Prime, which requires no be kind rewinding. Happy watching. Oh, and if you'd like to watch it in Gary Riley and me mode, then make some buttery popcorn and while it's still warm, sprinkle lemon pepper over the top. Yum. Okay, I found a fantastic article from Washington Trails Association about all sorts of hikes throughout the Cascades in search of different types of cryptids. I mean, how fantastic is this? This one, though, is proximate to Mount Adams. If you're in the area, be sure to check it out. Cultus Creek. It's located in the Mount Adams area. It's a 4-mile round trip loop. The elevation gain is 1,100 feet. The South Cascades, they describe, is well known for sightings of Bigfoot. In fact, the Dark Divide area is one of the areas most people believe where Bigfoot lives. The viewpoints on the Cultus Creek Trail overlook Goat Rocks, Sawtooth Mountain, Mount Rainier, Mount Adams, and maybe even a famous cryptid. I mean, come on, get your hiking boots on and do that one. The forests of Washington and Oregon are rife with rumors of cryptids, and one of those legendary creatures is called the gumbaroo. I know it sounds funny, but listen to this. Gumbaroo, natural habitat, the forests of Oregon and Washington. It sounds like a forgotten Sunday morning cartoon character, but don't let the cute name fool you. According to tales passed down by lumberjacks in the 19th and early 20th centuries, the gumbaroo is a football-shaped critter said to look like an obese bear, only completely hairless with a bristly beard and tough and leathery black skin that repels bullets. That's convenient. Gumbaroos allegedly spend most of their lives hibernating in hollowed out cedar trees, which means when they're not sleeping, they're ravenously devouring anything meaty and edible that comes along. Call it a scare bear. If you wish to dress as one and surprise fellow hikers, here's what you need. A screen printed gumbaroo smock. Okay, sure, right. We can find that. Plastic bear mask. I mean, come on. I've got the links to that article in case you want to go into detail about what a gumbaroo smock is, but it makes me want to wash my hands with Purell. I couldn't close the episode without sharing this post I found on the internet about Mount Adams, posted by a guest that called themselves Brownie to a site called Views from the Top. I'm just going to read their post verbatim. Finally, a bit more of the mystery has been solved for me, or is this just the beginning? Mount Adams, in the heart of the presidentials, is apparently a selected site for one of 19 holy mountains as charged by the strange and mysterious Aetherius Society, as listed on this site of the 19 peaks in the world. Okay, so it says, thanks to a post on VFTT, I only learned of this community today, the Aetherius Society. Flashback 1981. Bill and I, 18 years old, are hiking the Precious Traverse for the first time and experiencing quite a thrill over the large summits. As we head up the ramparts of Mount Adams, we see many folks dressed in white robes. There are groups of people all over the mountain, off trail and confused which way to go. It looked like a free-for-all. When we summited Adams, we saw chanting groups in prayer, and I thought it looked like something out of Tibet. Over on Mount Sam Adams to the west was a group of at least 100 in circle prayer. Wow, these guys are serious. They were all blessing the vast quartz deposits. I asked someone about the group and was told this peak was a power point for pilgrimage prayer. I never really grasped the whole concept of spiritual prayer until much later in life when I really needed it. So fast forward 10 years, 1991. Due to family illness, I climbed to this area on a new quest, that of serenity and prayer. I stayed at the perch tent site many times before, but this was a new quest of sorts. While camping out, I could not believe the number of other folks coming there to pray for various reasons, and eventually this grew on me for many years to come. That brings us to present day. I found myself going to the region, often staying nearby at Madison Hut. Still not understanding why I somehow feel safe even in storming weather. I can't explain. It just feels right. So is this why I climb the same peak 50 times? 50. I have another trip up Kings Ravine this weekend. These are just some passing thoughts of a mysterious peak, which I have felt compelled to keep in my life at least once each year, not to mention that it's probably the toughest peak to climb in the Whites. I laugh, I cry, I pray, I anger, I love, I leave with serenity and to keep my own faith in myself. I don't think I'll be signing up with these aetherius folks, but it's just I'm glad to know someone else is still out there doing it all too, officially. The UFO thing really kind of spooked me, and life on Mars, these people are really out there. Maybe I'm being programmed like the Close Encounters of the Third Kind, compelled to get to Devil's Tower. So, anybody got experiences to share? If you don't want to express interpersonal experiences to an internet group board's vulnerability, that's understandable. I just stuck my butt out in hopes to maybe hear from others. Drop a PM if you like, or post away public. I just thought it was all good, a good topic of interest, humor, positive vibe thing, or whatever. Hey, we got us a holy mountain from Brownie. So that was interesting, wasn't it? And also, you're not mistaken. That wasn't the Mount Adams in Washington State. It was another peak in New Hampshire. And here was one of the posts. I thought it was precious from a user named Sapblat to Brownie. Good post. And that is coming from a very non-spiritual person. If you find peace and strength on Adams or anywhere for that matter, it is great for you. I've never felt that way, but many do, and it makes their lives complete and whole. We are all different and experience life in different ways. My main feelings ascending Adams were pain, misery, and when does it all end? When indeed. I did some digging into Mount Adams as one of the 19 holy peaks. This is me again. And this strange society. And like I shared, it's not the Mount Adams in Washington. It was in New Hampshire. And I've read, I've heard, and watched lots about power spots and wonder if the natural celestial power may be the reason that places like Mount Adams or even Mount Shasta makes my body feel so almost over the top charged up. I get a headache, I get a stomach ache because of that innate strong energy. While other spots are literally tapping into the crust of the earth, like Kilauea on the Big Island, and those feel like home to me. As you're out in nature this week, tap into places that feed your soul, align those chakras, and fill your lungs, your bones, and your blood with life-giving oxygen. If any power spots come to your mind and you want me to investigate them, let me know about them on socials. Until next week, stay curious. I love you.
Hey, you. Yes, you. Are you looking for a new podcast that appeals to your scientific curiosity, but is also a little bit spooky?
Show me how I died in a past life.
Well, look no further, because this cat is where it's at.
He had concerns about the ethics surrounding AI, feeling they had achieved consciousness.
Curious Cat Podcast examines the shadowy space where science and the supernatural collide. Listen every week with your host, Jennifer Holtz, as she and her guests explore what it means to be a soul in a meat suit.
We were healing karma together. They were all kind of predestined to resolve something.
Listen on all your favorite streaming apps and continue the conversation on Twitter at CuriousCatPodCA, or find Jennifer and all her links at Jennifer L. Holtz, spelled HOTES.com.